Here we have a customer that wants to do built-ins along this wall in their front room. So what we're doing is went to Lowe's and picked up some wall cabinets. These are standard wall cabinets that are in your kitchen. And we're gonna put them along the bottom of the built-in shelves that we'll put in above these cabinets. Right now I'm building a box that these cabinets will stand on top of, so that it lifts them off the ground a little bit and gives them some clearance. That way they can vacuum underneath, and then we'll put a white piece of finish board underneath these cabinets to finish it off. Now that I've got my box built, you can see I'm going to put my cabinets on top of the box, and then later I'll put a piece of white trim in front of the 2x4 box to finish it off. Now I don't want my box to move at all that my cabinets are going to be sitting on. So what I'm going to do is take these lag bolts and I'm going to screw my box into the studs. And I've used a stud finder to mark where all the studs are, so that when I screw these lag bolts in, it goes through these 2x4s and into the studs that's behind this wall. And that'll make a nice solid base for my cabinets to sit on. Now that I got my lag bolts in place, my frame's not going anywhere. And then I've got this finished piece of toe kick that I put on here, and then use this pin nailer to hold it on. So we've got this nice looking toe kick that goes across. That'll hide the box behind it. Now I'm going to place my cabinets on my box and go from there. So you can see on this project, I've got my box that I built, that I put underneath my cabinets. These are 3 individual cabinets that I just picked up at Lowe's. They're just wall cabinets, and I picked up a piece of trim here that we'll put below cabinets like this to give it a finished look. Next, I need to fill in these gaps between the cabinets. So I've got some trim board that will cut down to fit in these gaps here, and then we'll screw those cabinets. We'll screw these cabinets to this trim board to fill in these gaps and make it look nice. Okay, now that we have our trim pieces in place to close the gap between the cabinets, we need to fasten the cabinets to the wall. And as you see, there's a space between the cabinet and the wall, so we're going to take some filler pieces like these 2x4s and shims, and we're going to screw through the back of the cabinet through the filler piece into the stud. So I've got a stud finder, and we're going to find the studs to drill through the cabinet, through the filler piece or the trim piece, into the studs in the walls. And to use this stud finder, you're going to turn it on, and it's going to say ready. I'm holding my finger to the button. It's going to say ready, and then it just kind of goes towards the stud. Just kidding. So what we do is we put it against the wall, push the button, it says ready, and we start sliding it across the wall until it beeps. And then there's an arrow right here that we mark. And I like to go on the opposite side of the stud as well, come this way. And then when it beeps again, I mark it. And you can see there's two marks on the wall. There's one here, there's one here. The stud is right between the two. So we're gonna put this piece here. We're gonna put another piece of trim behind this 2x4 so that we fill this gap in, and then we're gonna drill a screw through the top of the cabinet, through this 2x4 and the other piece I'm gonna make, and right into the stud. That way this cabinet is perfectly secure and is not gonna go anywhere. Okay, so here we are. We got the countertop. We've got the top installed. I went ahead and I caulked all along the edges, caulked along the filler board and along the kickboard. We don't want to have any dark cracks showing up. So I've taken off the front of the doors to make it a little bit easier. When I go to paint, I'm going to paint the whole thing. I've got the paint to match these cabinets. So I've taken the doors off. I won't paint the doors, but I'll paint inside and go from there. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to build our bookshelves. I'm going to build them in 3 sections, one over each cabinet, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so here I am building my shelf components. I'm building these in 3s and then stacking them above the cabinets. But I'll have 1, 2, 3 shelves and then a ridge cap that I'll put on so that I can fasten to the ceiling to keep it secure. So you can see how this is starting to take shape. Building one after another and then mounting them. And then see I've got a piece of support 2x4 up in the top there, and then I've got a big long lag bolt that I've gone through the shelving up into the trusses in order to support it, keep it from falling out so it's nice and sturdy. Now I've got to build this last section, and then we're going to caulk all the seams and then put on some primer. This shelving board at Lowe's is 12 inches wide, and then it comes in various lengths, but it's about $16 per board. I think the size that I got was 8 feet long. And then you can see I've used it to make the uprights, and then just put in some long screws, and then I've also got some finish nails that I've put in along the way. If you wanted to make it a little more stronger, you could take more of this shelving board, cut it at the 16-inch mark, and you could put it inside like this, and then put a piece of finish board on the outside. That way you wouldn't see this piece here, but you could see how that would give it some strength for this shelf. If you did that, put one piece here, one piece here, and then put a piece of trim board on the outside to cover up your seam right there. And that would look pretty good too. But I've just chose to put in some screws and then finish nails all along the way for the strength. So here we are. We've got the cabinets in place. We've got my shelves built, and then on front of each one of the shelves, I've just taken a piece of trim board like this, and I've glued and fastened it to the shelves themselves just to give it a little more classy look. So I've got the toe kick on the bottom, and then I've done the same thing up top that matches the toe kick on the bottom. So we've got this trim board on all the fronts of each one of the shelves and uprights, and then we've got the toe kick on the top that matches the toe kick on the bottom. Next, what we got to do is caulk all the seams so that you don't see the lines behind each one of the shelves. Okay, I'm ready to lay my bead of caulk down in these seams. So I've just taken a little bit of cut off the end of my caulk and just a little spot right there. And then I dip my finger in my soapy water here, warm soapy water, and then I just run it back across my bead of caulk here, and it makes a nice smooth seam. And then usually I'll have a little bit of caulk on my finger, and I'll just dip it back in the soapy water again and wipe off the caulk. But here we've got another seam. Just get that seam buttoned up like that. My finger's still a little bit soapy still, so I'm just gonna wipe my soapy finger in that seam. See a little bit on my finger still. And just rinse that off on my soapy water. Just rinse my finger off in the soapy water, and I keep a wet or a paper towel so I can dry my fingers off. But you can see how that makes a nice little bead. Another section here that needs some caulk, and I'm sure there's tons of people that are a lot better at caulking than I am, but this is how I've done it for years. Dip my finger in the soapy water and just run it up and down, and you get a nice smooth bead of caulk there. Nice finished look. A little spot here in this section. Needs a little bit here. So and just wipe that off. Wipe that off in your water. And you get a nice finished look. If you miss a spot, you can come back later and fix it. Here we've got the shells caulked and painted, and we're getting ready to install the hardware on the cabinets to open the cabinet doors. Here is our finished product for built-in cabinets and bookshelves. Not too shabby. Look how cute it looks, all finished.